Hi everybody and welcome to Level 1 Sharpies. You're going to need a big fat permanent marker, which is the one at the bottom, a fine point Sharpie, which looks like the one in the middle, and an ultra fine Sharpie, which has a really skinny tip, and it's the one that is at the top. Pause this video and collect your supplies. Before we get started, I do want you to take a look at the success criteria. Look at the difference between the column on the left and the column on the right. The main thing is the column on the right is sloppy and fast. Take your time, number one. Number two is if you find yourself with a marker that's dried out, stop, put on the brakes, and find a different marker. All right, happy sharpieing. Let's do it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do together is write our name and our class code at the top of the paper. And we're going to start with crosshatching, which is basically making a series of parallel lines further apart and then closer together to create value. So check it out. So I'm making some diagonal lines going across here with my regular Sharpie, my fine point Sharpie. I'm changing up my Sharpie because one was a little bit dried out. And then I go back the other way, kind of making like a checkerboard deal. The next thing I'm going to do using the same Sharpie in the middle box is I'm going to do the same thing, also cross-hatching, except I'm going to make my lines a bit closer together. And what I want you to do is to notice the difference in the overall effect. You'll see that it looks like it's a little bit darker because the lines are, in fact, closer together. And I'm also doing this very carefully. Please don't go fast. It will not look as good at all. So in the last box, you want to grab your ultrafine Sharpie and basically do the same thing, except with small lines. And you'll notice every time you use a different Sharpie and adjust the width of your lines, you get a different effect. Go ahead and pause this video and give it a shot. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is creating a pattern out of circles, and it's really the same concept where if you have bigger circles, the effect is different than if you have smaller circles. So what you want to do is start with your regular Sharpie for that first one. And again, you really do need to do this slowly and carefully, even if you need to pause the video, take a little break, and shake out your hand. In the middle one, I'm doing medium-sized circles. And in the last one, I'm going to do tiny circles. Keep in mind that at a lot of parts of this video, I'm messing around with the tape and putting it into fast forward. I'm not actually moving that fast. So take your time and give it a shot. A key to doing really cool stuff in Sharpie is keeping a balance of little tiny designs and bigger designs. So get your fat Sharpie, and this next one, I'm just doing a little zebra pattern. This is in the thick lines box, and I'm drawing it and then really carefully coloring it in to make some zebra stripes. Pause this video, grab your big fat marker, and give it a go. Okay, and the next one we're going to do is using our ultra fine Sharpie. Just have a little fun, open up your Sharpie and just move across the page. I was experimenting a little bit with lifting up the tip of the marker and seeing what happens. I'm creating that dashed effect and just have a little fun with it. What I really want you to understand is the effect of thin lines, a kind of light area effect versus the dark lines. So go for it. Pause this video and give it a shot. All right, and my favorite box is the last one. So the first thing you want to do is just divide up the space in that bottom rectangle there with a marker, and you're going to practice cross-hatching and circle patterns and thick lines and thin lines all together there in the different shapes that you create. You'll notice that I'm constantly moving my paper around in a way that, whatever way that feels comfortable really for my arm when I'm drawing. Feel free to do that when you are creating yours as well. But I do want to see in this bottom part examples of cross-hatching. You're bringing it all together, right? So examples of the big, medium, and small circle patterns. You can even put them all together into one space. thick lines and thin lines. Have a good time. Then everybody, the final step, of course, is to revisit those success criteria and one by one, each one technique at a time. So compare yours to the success criteria and determine whether for each technique you feel like you were successful. And if you weren't successful, what I'd love to hear from you as I come around is what you could have done differently and what you still need to work on. All in all, this was a tough one, so I'm sure you did a fantastic job.